Could your daily routine be full of hormone disruptors? There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living rent-free in our environment right now. In our food, our water, the air we breathe, the clothes we wear, our skincare, they all mess with our hormones. The good news is we don't have to suffer through it anymore because now we have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms of women of all ages. Since I've been using Hormone Harmony, I have felt more balanced, and other women feel the same way. The biggest benefit, they say, is feeling like myself again. That's what women mention over and over in their reviews, and there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code DATEABLE at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DATEABLE for 15% off today. And I'm Julie Kraftchick,
Dating Insiders,
here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to Dateable. Welcome back to Brunch Talk, our dateable friends, where we answer your burning dating questions and shoot the shit.
Dish, dish, dish. Here we go.
We never did get brunch when you were in LA, sadly.
I was thinking about that. I was re-listening to a Brunch Talk we aired a couple weeks ago where we were talking about what we're going to do. And you're like, there's this great shakshuka place that's right near the bookstore we're going to. We just had so much going on.
And it was pouring.
It was.
It was nonstop raining for 2 days. Not really brunch weather, I would say. But we had great sushi with your cousin and her boyfriend.
Yeah, I was going to say we had some legit sushi. That was so good.
Yes.
I like thinking about every day that roll, that shrimp roll.
If you're ever in Culver City area in LA, Uzumaki is probably one of my favorite sushi places that I always forget about. I don't know why, because I have like closer sushi places, but they have this crispy shrimp roll that is just to die for.
It's like orgasmic thinking about it.
It was very good.
I was like, I think I need to go to this place every time I come to LA, which will be next week. So I might be being like you, hey, can we go back there?
Yeah, we can make it our spot. This can be our spot.
I know. I really, oh my God. Shout out to my younger cousin. I'm like, my baby cousin. She's now like almost
so cute.
30, but it feels like we've had an age gap, but we've always been very close though. And I loved seeing her. She moved recently from New York to LA. So I got to meet her boyfriend, who I've never actually met before, even though they've been together for quite some time. So it was really fun having worlds collide. And I actually forgot you had already met her when we stayed there in New York.
Yeah, she's so lovely. We had such great time, and I'm so glad she and her boyfriend came out to our event too. They braved the rain. And I don't know if we talked about this in a previous episode, but it just so happened that two of our friends who live in New York now, but we met them in San Francisco, two of our friends were in LA for a friend's 40th birthday. It wasn't planned, but the timing worked out perfectly. And we got a text from one of them, Kiana, who's been on our show, like early season. And she's like, hey, I'm in town. Want to grab lunch? To me, because she knows I live in LA. And Julie was with me. And I was like, Julie, Kiana's in town.
I know.
It was so cool seeing the two of them.
It was so nice. Because I mean, I feel like we used to hang out all the time, still one of my closest friends. But yeah, I didn't tell her I was like going to LA. It's like, oh.
Yeah, she doesn't need to. She'd be like, okay. It's like, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to LA.
Well,
like, she doesn't need to know all that.
I don't know. I do have some friends that I think this happens. I don't know about you, Yue. I feel like friends that I live near, I tell every detail to. And then ones that don't, I don't actually. Like, I have a couple friends that I'll tell like every little thing kind of thing.
If I see someone on a regular basis, I will tell them when I'm going out of town. But if they live across the country, like, I don't think I need to tell them.
I feel like she would have been that friend when she lived in SF.
Yes.
Because we used to spend like tons of time together. We used to do the workout classes at her gym. Do you remember that? The dance classes? Yeah.
Oh my God.
She lived in this like a big apartment building. We used to rent out this dance area. It wasn't even in the main gym. And we used to do the end of exercise size with Shanti videos in there. It's kind of embarrassing now that I'm saying that out loud.
And you just said it. And we just recorded it. And we're not going to edit it out.
Nope.
so the
I'm
world
proud of
can
it.
hear.
But it was a
Loud and
great
proud.
surprise. Okay, so it was a pretty short trip. It was such a whirlwind. So I got there on Wednesday? We met up
Mhm.
with Allie Goldberg, who was our moderator. She's been on this podcast before and does an incredible live show if you ever have the chance to see her. We hung out like the first day. That night we went to dinner with my cousin and her boyfriend. And then that night, you and I just got into this like rabbit hole of reminiscing about our,
Oh, yes.
I don't know, I guess 30s, like early 30s.
Yes.
And just like some of the shenanigans that happened. And I just remember looking at my watch and I was like, oh my God, it's midnight. How did that happen?
And I think our listeners know you have those friends where you've just had like some of the most random nights with, where a million things could happen in one night. And then when you start reminiscing, you're like, but remember when that? And then after
Yeah.
that, we went there. And then do you remember that this person came along? And then you just keep going.
I still think, though, my favorite all-time story, we were talking about some of the events that, I think this is where it came from, too. We were talking about events that we had thrown in the
Oh, yeah.
past, because there was
yeah,
this
right.
time in Dateable history. It was with like another friend that we were friends with at the time. He was running these events. So it was kind of like a collaboration. And we did two of them. We did a onesie party and then a no pants party. And I think we then decided like we didn't really like doing this and it wasn't really our mission. I think this was in our growing stages. We were trying to figure out what Dateable was all about. But there was one night after the onesie party that just got so ridiculous. And we ended up at the PayPal mansion in San Francisco. For anyone that is not from here, it's basically like one of the founders of PayPal has this insane house.
That has a swimming pool in the living room, indoor swimming pool in the living room.
It's crazy. And he'll throw these crazy parties. And UA had a friend that somehow was on the inside, was friends with him, invited us. So we all went from a onesie party to this party. So you can already imagine how ridiculous this was. And we get out of the Uber, and one of our friends independently he's the security guard at this party. And he thought we were all there because like he was working the door. He didn't realize like we knew someone. One of our friends just walked straight to the door. And it was a glass door. And she just went straight in and literally bumped her head on the door. And we all thought it was going to shatter. And the look on his face, he was like, oh my God, you guys are going to get me fired. And she ended up having a concussion. So it was pretty bad.
Her second concussion
that
week.
Yes. She's somehow walking around because we were like, you can't go home. You got to stay here, right? She's like walking around this crazy party with like ice on her head, and the guy from PayPal is just giving her like a death stare. He's like, do not fuck up my home.
And every time he'd come around, we would hide her. Like, put a plant in front of her face. Don't let him see her.
I just remember that day so vividly, though, when she just went slam into the door.
And we're like, yep, of course. Of course this would happen. Of course.
But we were all fucked up, so that was part of it.
I mean, those nights, sometimes if it weren't for you, I would have thought those were several split between separate nights. All of this, the chain of events happened in one night. And I need someone to fact check me because it feels like it happened over the course of a few months.
And Yue and I were talking about this, that we're like, okay, we're glad that these aren't the nights we're having anymore because I don't think we're built for this anymore, but we also kind of miss it. And those were like the golden single years of just being able to do that shit.
I know. I miss the shenanigans. I really do.
Too.
And just the random people that would come along for the ride. We never did any of this to meet somebody. It wasn't like, oh, maybe some cute guys are going to show up. It was like, let's just have a good time. And a lot of time we would just end up meeting really random people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the best parts of a city like San Francisco, and other cities I'm sure have this too, but just like the communal aspect and how you kind of like run with similar crowds and then they are all intertwined. I feel like I live in San Francisco, but I don't really experience that as much anymore just because of the stage of life I'm in.
Yeah, we got to grow into this next stage. But you never know. Maybe in our 50s, we're going to get our mojo back and start doing parties again. In a previous lifetime in New York, I used to throw parties when I had my Single-Fied brand. And these were legit singles parties where people would get shit-faced. And I threw a no pants party that got a little too wild. So I thought I would bring that to San Francisco, but that was another season of my life. These parties were a little different. So now I'm wondering my next season of parties, what that would look like. I think we can still do it.
I think you should have another no pants party.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying here?
Adult diapers only.
Adult diapers only. Throwback to anyone that knows the diaper fetish episodes.
Incontinence.
Yeah.
Incontinence party.
Anyways, it's been a wild couple weeks, that's for sure. It's been really nice, though, just seeing you and just reconnecting. And again, the whole event that we did in LA just felt so communal. And I miss that. And I'm glad that we're going to have that, in other cities as well.
Right. We had some little Q&A at the end. If you've been to any of our book events, we always save time for Q&A. And these were some really well thought out questions. And one of them that stuck out for me was, what are you most optimistic about and least optimistic about for the future of dating?
Yeah.
So I said I'm most optimistic about people's need for connection, especially in communities and searching for community. And I gave our book event as an example, as people coming out in the middle of pouring rain to seek out this community for the night.
I wish, though, for what makes me least optimistic is that on the flip side of what you said, of some people coming out and seeking out community, it's getting easier and easier to just do nothing. And we talked to actually Dr. Lori Santos that we'll have in a couple weeks. She does the happiness lab for anyone that's unfamiliar with her work. She's incredible. And she was talking about how Gen Z are lonelier than ever. They spend more time in front of screens instead of connecting to other humans. And to me, that is, I think, the scariest outcome, is that's just easier to do nothing than to put yourself out there.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely a major issue that we face. So that's why we wrote the book, because we really hope to motivate people to seek out connections, because it is what drives humans ultimately.
It makes dating easier too, I think, at least in my personal experience. And I'm sure there's tons of studies that back this up too. But when I had other communal events and spending time with friends and friend groups, it didn't put as much pressure on dating. The last time around, I've shared this before, I always did this thing that I never made a date on Friday night. I reserved that to be friends night, because I knew that no matter what happened with my dating life, I was going to have that connection. So if I went on the bad date, then I was okay, well, I still got my cup filled. And then next week, I also know I will. And it just made it feel not as, I don't know, brutal, maybe is a good word.
And it's less pressure on your partner to be there for you for everything, to satisfy all your needs, to be your social calendar. I mean, that's a lot to put on a partner. So it's nice to spread the wealth, if you will, amongst your community. And this is why, if you are in our Facebook community, Big Dateable Energy, you'll see that we're driving people to your local groups. So if you live in a certain city, there may be some other people, other dateable listeners in your city. And we're really encouraging people to meet up, because now's the time. Let's get that FaceTime with each other.
I guess good news, bad news is we had this experiment that we're trying called Dateable Day. We were trying to get all the different cities to do a meetup on the same day. And that felt kind of impossible. Actually, Seattle was ready to go, and then they got a snowstorm. So there were a bunch of stuff that came in, and I think it's okay. It was a learning experience, but what it did was it got the group starting to form, and now there's more time to get together. So now it's just becoming dateable next few months. Get together at your leisure. Find a time that works for you. But I agree. We need to get more and more people connecting.
Yeah, it's a dateable year.
Dateable year.
Anytime.
Yeah. The year
Anytime
of dateable.
this year.
Yeah. I want to talk about actually another really fun convo you and I got into while we were together that I think people will really resonate with. But before we do, let's take a break to hear from some of our sponsors.
Did you know that an estimated 5 billion plastic hand soap and cleaning bottles are thrown away each year? That's a lose-lose situation for you and the planet. Blue Land is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet with the same powerful clean you're used to. The idea is simple. They offer refillable cleaning products with a beautiful, cohesive design. You just fill your reusable bottles with water, drop in the tablets, and wait for them to dissolve. You'll never have to grab bulky cleaning supplies ever again. And I have to say, since switching to Blue Land products at home, I'm experiencing far less allergies and inflammation. And generally, it just feels so good to be using clean products, especially with my dog around. Blue Land has a special offer for our listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/dateable. You won't want to miss this. blueland.com/dateable for 15% off. That's blueland.com/dateable to get 15% off.
We all know that February is the month of love, and it's time to keep that Valentine's Day energy going all month long. Elevate your passion using the natural power of cannabis with Via. My go-to gummy is still the Flow State CBD one. It's THC-free with herbal plant extracts and functional mushrooms designed to support brain function, boost energy, and enhance mental focus. But this month, when love is in the air, I highly recommend trying out their best-selling High Love Gummy that will awaken your senses, increase blood flow, and intensify any sexual experience. And the best part, Via legally ships to nearly all states in the US in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee. No medical card required. If you're 21 plus, head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. And if you're new to Via, get a free gift of your choice. That's VIIA hemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. After you purchase, they ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. This month of love, elevate your love life with Via.
Let's be honest, we all stress about our relationships sometimes, right? But what if those thoughts take over your life and you feel this deep need to do something about them? Maybe this drives you to constantly check for signs that your relationship's okay, ask for reassurance from your partner or loved ones, or compare your relationship to others. These can be signs of relationship OCD, a type of obsessive compulsive disorder that focuses on your relationships. Now, not every therapist understands OCD or is qualified to treat it effectively, which can make it difficult to find the right kind of help. And that's where NoCD comes in. With NoCD, you can do virtual therapy with a licensed therapist who specializes in treating all types of OCD. They can teach you how to set those fears and doubts aside so that you can enjoy your relationship and your life. To find out more about therapy with NoCD, go to nocd.com and book a free 15-minute call with their team. That's nocd.com to learn more and book a free call. Trust me, it's worth your time to talk to someone who can uncover what's really going on and help you get your life back.
So when we were down in LA, we were talking about the taxi cab theory, which is one of our favorite topics, and thought maybe like we can keep having this convo on Brunch Talk, because I think a lot of people really resonate with this topic and have a lot of opinions on this topic.
And it's a question we get all the time. Like, if someone's ready, are they ready? And is it just the next person they see? Get them in the cab and just keep driving. The taxi cab theory came out of Sex and the City.
Yep.
Is that where
Sex
it
and the City.
originated?
Yep.
That episode was specifically about men. When men are ready, they're like a taxi cab. When their light is on, they'll just pick up the next person.
It was from an episode. I remember that Miranda had this friend coming into town and she was really excited because his light was on. And then she was getting her whole apartment redesigned for him to come. And he ended up meeting the interior decorator, and then they ended up getting married. A whirlwind romance because his light was on.
That's right. Of course, it's a nuanced theory, but there is some merit to that. Now I think about it more, I think it's personality specific. I see some personalities, when they have their eyes set on something, they're getting it. And then they're going to get it. They're going to accomplish it.
I do think, we talk about this in the book too, is like when you have clarity of what you want, like not just generic clarity, like I want a relationship, but real clarity where we take you through of our dating North Star exercise. I think when you have that clarity, all of a sudden that's what comes to surface. So I do think there is some merit there. And you and I were having this conversation, UA in LA, about like when people complain about dating apps, like if It's kind of like going to the grocery store. Like if you're not in the mood to shop, nothing is going to look good to you. And it's the same difference as like when you're ready to meet that person, when you're on a dating app, all of a sudden you're seeing the potential in everyone instead of how no one looks good enough. And I think the taxi cab theory is similar of when you're ready for a relationship, you start to seek out other people that are ready for a relationship and you're looking.
And you're putting out the vibe that you are ready for something serious. And I hope the flip side to that is your light is on for the right people and it's off for the wrong people.
Yes.
So it's still, right? There's still like a filtering process and all of that. I hope it's not just anybody who hops in your cab. You're like, let's go.
I think that's the part about the theory, though, that's not great because it makes it feel like, oh, you just got chosen because you were there, like as the person that the person is now going for. And I don't think that is factual. I think someone can be ready, but they can still be discerning of who they end up with.
Right. It begs the question, what's ready? I don't know if I've ever been like ready in my life for something. Like I've never woken up and said, yeah, I'm ready for a marriage now. My light is on. But that's just my personality.
Yeah.
My ex with his previous marriage, he was ready. And overnight, he woke up. He was like, I'm ready. And then spoke to a few girls he talked to before and then married one, in less than 1 month.
That is a taxi cab theory.
That's a taxi cab.
I don't know if I've woken up and said, like, the next person I meet, I'm going to get married to. But I definitely had points in my life that I was open and willing to do the work required for a relationship and like put myself out in that way. So I would say I was ready in that regard. Like I was ready to take dating more seriously, be more intentional about who I gave my time to. I slowed down the pace of my life. I wasn't going to like raging PayPal mansion parties anymore and getting concussions and all that stuff. And I think in that stage of life, I remember meeting some people on dating apps that maybe were more ready than I was. And I feel like they thought I was immature.
So if someone met you during that phase and said, okay, her light is not on, I'm just going to wait until her light comes on, what do you say to that?
I don't think you can wait. The light might never come on for someone. I don't know if anyone's waited for my light to come on, but I've certainly waited for other people's lights to come on. I don't know. I never like to give like hard and fast dating advice, but maybe the one thing I would say is don't wait for people.
Yeah.
It never ends well.
Because also when your light is on, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to like that person.
Right. Well, that's the other hard truth.
You're a different person.
Yeah. If you're attracted to them when you're not looking for something serious, like, will that end up being the person that you end up with? Probably not.
Right. Yeah, because we hear this question quite a bit. Some of you have asked, I met someone really wonderful. We have a great connection. They're not ready for a commitment because of X, Y, and Z going on in their life. Should I wait? Should I be on standby?
No.
And our answer is always no, because why should you pause your life and your needs to wait for something that doesn't have a certainty of it happening at all? You should still move on with your life and live your life to the fullest. And if your timing coincides later, great, but you didn't have to pause or wait for anything.
I think this conversation is hard, though, not knowing the context of what waiting means, because I do think there's a big difference. Like if you're both like, we want to get married, but I need a little more time, but we're on the track. Like we're in the same book, but we might be on different pages versus like we're in totally different books. I think there's a difference of those two. And sometimes I think they can get conflated and people hear like, oh, the person that waited around, eventually they got married to the person and it all worked out. But where are you on that like spectrum? I think if like someone's like, I have no desire to settle down and you want to, it's a much tougher battle than if someone's like very committed to a relationship, but they need like a little more time.
So in that example, I would say the light is on. It's just the speed of which you're driving your car may be different preferences for both people in the car, but the light is on. I think
That's
when
true.
It's off, the off light is someone saying, I am not ready to commit at all. I don't want to get married at all. I just don't see it for my future. And then you, as someone who does want that, you're waiting for this person to change and to turn on their light somehow And we're saying, like, that's not worth your time.
No, I also can look back at like exes, like my most serious ex, like he did say he wanted to get married eventually and even talked about
Mhm.
us getting married. But I would say his light was not on in the current
Mm.
actions. So it could be the extreme of I never want to do this far out in the future thing, or it could even be like I'm actually not even committed to being all in a relationship and can't do the commitment you're asking for. And I think there
Yeah.
is different lights on, but both of them probably aren't going to end well if it's something you want more of.
Yeah. So maybe I think this is where the theory does work is if you're looking for a taxi right now, you are not going to flag a taxi that doesn't have its light on.
Right.
You're wasting your time like trying to convince that driver to give you a ride when they're like, I'm off duty, ma'am. I can't take you. So if you're trying to get somewhere, look for someone with a light on, right? Instead of like going in the dark and being like, which light might be on soon.
Right. What I've learned from my relationship is relationships are already hard. Like there's already a lot that's difficult about a relationship, even when you have a partner that is fully committed and ready to work with you. If you add in the extra barrier that you're like convincing them to even like get there at all, it's like an uphill battle completely. And then I also feel like in those situations, I wasn't even getting like real with them because I was so focused on even just getting them to like commit to being with me in the first place. So if you are looking for something real, the life partner type of relationship, it's a lot easier to go for someone that's already there mentally and wants to do it.
Yes. Who's on duty? Who's working?
I don't think it's just a men thing anymore, though. I think it's universal. I think in today's world, we can't just assume that like women are always on. Of course, there's going to be some men and some women that are always on, but it's not everyone. So I remember you've like shared stories of friends of yours that have been trying to really make it work with a girl that keeps telling him like this, I don't want a relationship. To me, it's the same difference.
Yeah. She buckled though.
Oh, they're in a relationship?
Yes. I'm still surprised. I'm in shock.
Well, let's stay tuned in a couple months.
Yeah,
see how that goes.
Let's
Interesting.
stay tuned. Yes, very interesting. Yeah, we don't have to get too gendered about it, but I still think overall women are wired to look for stability. And maybe it's not that we're always looking for relationships or marriage. We do desire commitment, and that is how we're wired. And I think that's why we always use this term and this theory in terms of men, because men aren't hardwired in that way as much.
I mean, I hate that it's this way, but I think the story you told about your friend is anomaly. Like, I feel like most of the times it's the other way around of what we hear from talking to so many daters. It's usually like guys are always like, it's so hard to get a date. It's hard to get to that next date. But then once like they're in, it's somehow like they're the ones kind of calling it a little. And it's unfortunate that it's that way. But I think like I don't know. I'll speak for myself. I don't want to speak for all women, but I feel like once I made the decision to be like, I like this person, then I was like good to go with it. Maybe getting to that decision in the first place took a little more time, but yeah.
Yeah. Once you're committed, you're committed.
Sometimes to the wrong people. I was committed to the wrong people.
You're like, oh shit, you're not going in my direction, taxi cab.
I'm still here. Take me on whatever route you want. Don't recommend that. Highly not recommend. Make sure someone's going in your direction.
You're going all the way down to the South Bay first before you go back to San Francisco? Oh, okay. Yeah, scenic route.
If I could do anything, if I could tell my younger self anything, it would be don't do that. Don't be with the wrong people or people that clearly aren't looking for what you're looking for and try to convince them to turn on that light. It's a losing battle.
What do you think is worse? Being with someone whose light is not on and you're trying to turn on their light, or being with someone whose light is on but going in a different direction?
Ooh, they're both bad.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm biased here because this is more my own experience, but I do think it's harder to convince someone to want what you want. I think with the example that you gave of just going in different directions, it might become more apparent quicker that like you're just not meant to be. Where when one person is convincing the other and the other person maybe has a more ambiguous stance, then you think you can change them. Where if they have a hard line, then maybe it's more obvious. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's worse being with someone who doesn't have their light on because you don't move at all.
Yeah.
There's just in action, at least with the person going in the opposite direction or different direction. You're going somewhere, maybe not the direction you want, but at least there's movement.
I think that you said it more eloquently than I did. I think that's what I was trying to get at, is that with the different direction, you'll learn quicker that it's not going to work, where the other, you stay in limbo more.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Well, glad we unpacked that more. What do you all think? Do you think the taxi cab theory that was, when did Sex and the City come out? Like 2001?
A million
No, it
years
was 2005,
ago.
I think.
Before dinosaurs.
It was when I was in college. I remember watching it. I think it wrapped in 2005. Anyways, it's been 20 years ago, which is wild that we're still talking about theories from it. But I still think there isn't a show that's replaced it. Maybe younger, but not fully.
No, not as deep. Younger is not as deep.
Yeah. So let us know. What do you think? Taxi cab theory, yay or nay? We'll put a poll up. We're going to try one in Spotify and let us know what you think. Awesome.
Well, that is it. Come out to our events if you are in any of the cities we mentioned, or request us at a city that you live in and we'll try to make something work. But, if you really want to see us, just get our book, because that is all us in there.
People have said it's like, I hear your voice as I'm reading the pages, or literally if I'm listening to the audiobook. So
there you go. Yes.
Yeah, get that book. That is where it's at right now.
howtobedateable.com is where you can find it all. And any other questions or theories you want to discuss, you can always send them to us by email, hello@dateablepodcast.com. You can DM us on Instagram @dateablepodcast, or best yet, leave us a rating and review, 5 stars, please, in Apple Podcasts. And in the body of your review, you can tell us what you want us to discuss next.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week.
Bye.